Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Gavin. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for bearing with me as I am working through balancing my day job and balancing what I'm doing here on YouTube. For those of you that don't know, I am a reporter. I feel like I'm kind of yelling there. I'm a reporter for a local news publication in Western Pennsylvania, and this week and part of next week, I'm assigned to cover a murder trial in a neighboring county. And, so you're there in court all day long, and then it's an hour drive back to the house where I then need to submit my article before I move on to joining you guys. So I'm glad that I'm here. I'm glad that you guys have patiently borne with me as I've gotten ready for this. We are going to be talking a little bit about the recent legal issues facing, and that is the understatement of the century right here. I just know in the beginning of a YouTube video, I can't really talk in specific words about this. We're going to get into it a little bit. We're going to call them issues. Let's call them, let's say the federal case and the multiple civil cases against this man, Sean Combs. I personally don't like saying things like P. Diddy, Diddy, Puff Daddy, all those things, because I feel like I'm being drawn into his game, and I don't want to be a part of that game. And I never listen to his music, so I don't know him as anything other than Sean Combs. But anyway, this guy, Mr. Combs, is facing a federal indictment. He is also facing lawsuits from many women: Cassandra Ventura, Joy Dickerson-Neal, Lisa Gardner, Rodney Jones, the lone man so far in the civil actions, Crystal McKinney, April Lampros, Audrey English, Don Richard, and Talia Graves. So, I mean, he has got a lot going on. A lot going on. And what I want to do tonight is I want to read an article to kind of catch us up on everybody that is here in this kind of web of lawsuits and federal actions, and then maybe get in a little bit to some of the documents in that are here, mostly the indictment, I think. And I know that it was released back on September 19th, but I think I was where was I? I can't remember where I was at the time. I feel like I was traveling or something. Anyway, I haven't covered it on the channel yet. What does Jamie say? The hardest working content creator you know. How many content creators do you know, Jamie? Jamie is one of our amazing moderators. Now, if you guys want to talk to me, you want me to see your comment, just like Jamie, put GF in the comment, and that will get my attention. And Mooney says, thanks for the heads up. Yeah, I was about 35 minutes late tonight, but thanks for sticking with me, Mooney, who is one of my OG supporters. All right, so I'm just going to keep this up. The first place that I'm going to go is over to NPR. They have an article that was published on the 10th, but updated today, titled, "Here's Everyone Caught in the Web of Sean Combs' Allegations So Far." And let's just dig in here real quick so that we understand what we've got going. Okay, Sean Combs remains in a Brooklyn jail while awaiting a May 5th trial on federal charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. The hip-hop mogul has pleaded not guilty on all charges and has been repeatedly denied bail. I am sure the reason they are denying bail is because he is a man of many millions of dollars and could possibly flee. And it kind of depends. Man, is my chair sinking? Hang on. Feels like it is. Sometimes charges are just not bailable, right? Before and after his arrest, Combs has also been served 18 civil lawsuits for physical assault, the R word, and more. The indictment and many of the lawsuits name Combs' numerous business ventures and claim they are complicit in financing and enabling the rapper's abuse inside and outside of the recording studio. They also detail how Combs allegedly used his position of power in the entertainment industry to lure, coerce, and silence those around him. And before we go on, I think we've all seen some of the shocking video that of Mr. Combs beating people, right? Like he is, it doesn't seem like it's a question of if he did the things that he is accused of doing. It's a question of how many times did he do it and how many victims there are. That's the way it seems to be. So here's an ongoing list of notable people named in lawsuits and criminal investigations against Combs so far, excluding the accusers who have chosen not to reveal their names. All right. So the accusers, number one is Cassie Ventura, right? So, let's see. The R&B singer was in a personal and professional relationship with Combs for over a decade. In November 2023, Ventura filed a federal lawsuit against Combs alleging years of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. The lawsuit also named Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, and Combs Enterprises. A day after the filing, the two parties settled the trafficking, R-word, and physical assault case out of court, but Ventura's willingness to come forward opened the floodgates for nearly a dozen other lawsuits against Combs. And this, guys, is extremely important. It's like oftentimes in these cases, it just takes one brave victim, one person to say, I've had enough. I am going to file the lawsuit. And of course, Combs' response was, oh, it's all about money. It's all about money. But what ends up happening is when that one brave person steps forward, oftentimes an avalanche of other victims follow. And that is the case with Cassie Ventura. The pair reportedly met in 2005 when Ventura was 19 and Combs was 37. The following year, Ventura signed a deal with Bad Boy Entertainment and released her self-titled debut album. Ventura's lawsuit alleged this was the beginning of Combs' coercion and abuse, which she said completely took over her life and included forcing her to take illicit substances, forcing her to participate in sex with male sex workers while Combs filmed her, encounters Combs referred to as freak-offs, and frequent beatings. The lawsuit stated that the beatings were often witnessed by Combs' staff, employees of Bad Boy Entertainment, and Combs-affiliated businesses. Earlier this year, CNN published footage dated to 2016 that showed Combs repeatedly hitting and kicking Ventura in the hallway of a Los Angeles hotel. Obviously, that's the video I was referring to. Shortly after, Ventura took to Instagram to address the video and subsequent public response. The quote, "The outpouring of love has created a place for my younger self to settle and feel safe now, but this is only the beginning," she wrote. DV is the issue. It broke me down to someone I never thought I would become. With a lot of hard work, I'm better today, but I will always be recovering from my past. Okay, the next person was Joy Dickerson-Neal. She filed a lawsuit accusing Combs of drugging, sexually harassing, and abusing her and distributing, quote, revenge porn. The suit states that Dickerson was a psychology student at Syracuse when she agreed to go on a date with Combs in 91. She had appeared in one of the rapper's music videos. After the pair had dinner, the suit alleges that Combs pressured Dickerson to keep the night going and drove them to a recording studio. There, Dickerson says she realized she had been drugged and was unable to get out of the car since she could no longer stand or walk on her own. This is when the suit alleges that Combs took her to another location and proceeded to assault her. Okay, let's Lisa Gardner, and this is the only one that I can't find a photo for. She filed a lawsuit alleging that in 1990 she was R-worded by Combs and R&B singer Aaron Hall. The lawsuit says that days later, Combs assaulted and choked Gardner until she lost consciousness. In an amended complaint, she added that she was 16 years old when she was invited to New Jersey from her home in North Carolina by her friends Devontae Swing and Dalvin DeGrate of the R&B group Joe Desi. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know R&B all that much. The lawsuit states that Joe Desi's housing where Gardner was staying was subsidized by their label Uptown Records, a subsidiary of MCA and UMG. It goes on to allege that Gardner and her 15-year-old friend Monica Case met Combs and Hall at an MCA Records event in New York, where they were reportedly supplied with alcohol. Yeah. So later, yeah, they were assaulted. Rodney Jones, he said he lived with Combs, who says repeatedly groped him, forced him to solicit sex workers, take illegal drugs, and more. And let's see, Crystal McKinney says that she filed a lawsuit against Combs and all the other companies, including his clothing company, Sean John. The charges against UMG were later dismissed, and Daddy's House Recordings was added as a co-defendant. Suit states that she was 22 years old in 2003, working as a model when an unnamed designer introduced her to Combs at a fashion show in New York City. Combs allegedly expressed interest in getting to know McKinney better and helping her modeling career grow. Later that night, he invited her to a recording studio where McKinney says Combs and several other men were smoking marijuana and drinking. She took a hit of a joint, which, according to the lawsuit, she believes was laced with another substance. She states that Combs pressured McKinney to continue drinking and smoking. As she became more intoxicated, she was led to a bathroom by Combs where he assaulted her. April Lampros filed a lawsuit saying that in 1994, while studying at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, she said Combs invited her to the Bad Boy studio, promised to mentor and help her advance her career, and began love bombing her. They started, you guys know where love bombing comes from, that term? It comes from, ironically, Because I Love Mooney. I think that comes from the Moonies, right? Pretty sure. Anyway, they started dating. Lampros would often travel to see Combs, though he asked that their relationship be kept private. And then she says he began to SA her on 4 separate occasions. Another one here is Audrey English. In July, a woman named Audrey English filed a lawsuit against Combs and all of the brands and companies. It alleges that in 2004, she was working as a dancer in New York City when she and her then boyfriend, aspiring model Anthony Gallo, were hired to work at one of Combs' famous white parties in the Hamptons. She alleges that while working at the party, she was forced to drink alcohol, which she believes was laced with ecstasy, and forced to consume narcotics. She alleges that Combs and another employee continued to hire her to work at white parties in New York and Miami. According to the lawsuit, around the third event, she alleges that she was asked to swap the usual white attire for a black mini dress and forced to begin having sex with guests. Lawsuit also names Jacob Arabov, known as Jacob the Jeweler. Let's see. Don Richard. This is the next one. Don Richard. September singer Don Richard filed a lawsuit against Combs for sexual assault and battery. The complaint also states that Richard witnessed Combs beat and abuse Ventura on many occasions. She first met Combs when she auditioned for the MTV show Making the Band in 2004 and was selected to be a member of the group Danity Kane under Combs' mentorship. The lawsuit alleges that Richard and her bandmates were subjected to inhumane working conditions during their time on the show, forced to rehearse for up to 48 hours without food or breaks. Let's see, there's, just abusive behavior. Talia Graves is a woman in September named Talia Graves filed a lawsuit against Combs, accusing him and his bodyguard, Joseph Sherman, of R-wording her, according to the recording the assault without her knowledge and distributing the video as pornography. She alleges the assault took place in 2001 when she was 25 years old and dating an unnamed record producer who worked with Combs. So anyway, I mean, Mr. Combs has all sorts of problems here. Now, Diana Barnes asks, Diana, it's good to see you. Is there no statute of limitations on SA charges? So couple things happened in the state of New York and a couple of other places including federally, in the wake of the Me Too movement. These are the same laws that made it possible to arrest Harvey Weinstein, to arrest, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. It was the same law that made it possible to bring a civil complaint against Donald Trump. So yeah, there is like a moratorium on these statutes of limitations. I don't know the details of that, but that is the reason why so many of these lawsuits are coming out now, because before the statute of limitations had expired, and now these women are able to come forward. Now, I also think that while actually a very important distinction here is that most of these lawsuits are civil, not criminal. So you can sue anybody for any reason at any time civilly. Statutes of limitations only apply to criminal prosecutions. And I think that when Cassie Ventura brought her lawsuit, that just empowered a whole bunch of people to do it too. But Diana, your question does apply to the indictment, which is where we're going next. Okay, let me bring this over here. This is in my way. Great question. Okay, so going to bring you over to the indictment here. This was released on September 19th, though it was not, I don't know what the date of the actual indictment was. What is an indictment? Let's get into this real quick before we go on. An indictment, basically what happens is in many jurisdictions, including federally, who said, it's pronounced Richard. Okay, gotcha. So Don Richard, thank you very much, Toya. Appreciate that. Okay, so in many jurisdictions, including federally, in order to bring charges against somebody, the district attorney or the prosecutor, could be a federal prosecutor, could be a state prosecutor, county prosecutor, must take all the evidence that they have and present it to a grand jury. This grand jury is a jury like any other. People are called to jury duty. They're selected for jury duty, and they sit on these juries, these grand juries. Now, in a grand jury, there is no defense. The defense is not there. They cannot question any witnesses. They cannot cross-examine. All that this indictment process, this grand jury process is for the prosecutor to prove to a grand jury that they have probable cause, which is a very low bar legally, but they have probable cause to bring charges against someone. If that grand jury, after deliberation, agrees that there's probable cause, then they write an indictment. So that is what we're looking at here. This is the indictment against Mr. Combs. And he's got, how many pages is this? This is 14 pages. Okay. Count 1, racketeering. I think there are 3 counts. Let's see. Count 2 is sex trafficking. Count 3 is transportation to engage prostitution. So those are the 3 counts against him. And let's learn a little bit more about this. Now remember, these are not civil. This is a federal indictment. So this is the United States of America v. Sean Combs. They're bringing, and this is why he is currently incarcerated. Okay. Count 1. For decades, Sean Combs, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. By the way, the employees, many of the employees were also included in the civil complaints, there will, if it hasn't happened already, there will be federal charges against those people too. Okay, Sean Combs, the defendant, operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs Business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcohol spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. At all times relevant to this indictment, Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse toward women and other individuals. The abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting in his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. He ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. That's a great comment. Chickablast says, Gavin, it's funny how all the people in the Jeffrey Epstein case were also at his parties. Yeah, the list of people that attended his parties is long and distinguished. Wow. Yeah, great comment. Thank you. Physical abuse by Sean Combs was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. These assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women and extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. Sean Combs used the Combs Business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. These employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs Business. From at least in or about 2008 through on or about the date of the filing of this indictment, Sean Combs and others known and unknown were members and associates of a criminal organization, the Combs Enterprise or the Enterprise. So, this is like racketeering. They might charge some of these people with racketeering. They're talking about like a criminal organization. Okay, members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 1961-4. That is, a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Combs, entities within the Combs Business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global, and individuals employed by and associated with the Combs Business, and others known and unknown. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. The Combs Enterprise was engaged in, and its activities affected, interstate and foreign commerce. Therefore, it is federal. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Give me just a second here. At all times relative to this indictment, Combs was the leader of the Combs enterprise. Paragraph 10. Combs and others known and unknown participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprises affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as those other close associates of Combs. Man, I would imagine that so many of these people are shaking in their boots right now. They're having a hard time going to sleep without the assistance of chemistry, I think. Okay, purpose of the Combs enterprise. The purposes of the Combs enterprise included the following: operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcohol spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. Guys, because I don't know, tell me what television network and media company Sean Combs owned. I'm curious what media company that is. I have no idea. I'm opening my kimono here, okay? I'm not a Combs fan, but I'm curious what it is. Leave it in the live chat. Put GF in it so that I know. Okay, B, preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs, the defendant, as a musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry. C, enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. Yeah, loyalty is one of those things that it just seems is demanded by like despots and dictators, right? Veronica, thank you. Bad Boy Entertainment. Yeah, but I guess what is the actual network? I know Bad Boy Records, but like it talks about like he had a television network. Like what is the television network? Liesel says Bad Boy Records. I know. Revolt is the television network. Is that what it is, Diana? You guys can tell I'm just not a Sean Combs guy. All right. Yeah, anyway, loyalty is one of those things where it's just like if somebody is demanding your loyalty, yeah, run far away. It like in business or in family or in whatever. Loyalty is not something that somebody should demand. Loyalty is something that is earned. Anyway, okay, D. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs. Okay, you guys are all right. He's the founder of Revolt, Revolt TV. It's called Revolt. Revolt. Yes, Revolt. Okay. All right, now I know. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. All right. D, again, preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs Enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. E, fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. Let's see, what's Jess saying here real quick. Gavin, Revolt TV, and I think he lost it in June 2024, but I don't know if it was related to this case or something else. Veronica says his enterprise ran a record company, music publishing, clothing line, modeling agency, various business partners, Ciroc Liquor, and Revolt TV. Huh. Again, I don't drink, so I don't know these things. I'm like this naive little kid, all grown up into a big fat middle-aged man. What did he say? Autumn says he stepped down as chairman after being sued. All right. Thanks, Autumn. You guys are awesome. Thanks for those comments. All right. F, enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution and other crimes, and concealing the commission of such acts. G, securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats. And H, protecting the Combs enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. Means and methods of the enterprise. Give me a second, I need water. Among the means and methods by which Sean Combs, the defendant, and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise include the following. Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprises wielded power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, I'm not going to use this word for YouTube's sake, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of his enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Liesel says he operated like a cartel boss. He had Bad Boy, Revolt, Ciroc, and a tequila brand alongside his clothing line, Sean John. Sean John was her clothing line, or his, I don't know. It was popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then Jess says, after a quick Google search, he stepped down in 2023 after SA allegations and then mistakenly sold it in 2024. Mistakenly sold it. Okay. Thanks, Jess. Okay. I'm going to skip down because, man, there's a lot here. Here's racketeering. From at least in or about 2008 through on or about the date of this filing of this indictment in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the Combs enterprise, described in paragraphs 6 through 12 of this indictment, an enterprise engaged in and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States, to wit, Title 18, U.S. Code, Section 1962. That is, to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, as that term is defined by Title 18, 1961, 1 and 5, consisting of multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of law, multiple acts involving arson, chargeable under the following provisions of law and a bunch of California laws. C, multiple acts involving bribery, chargeable under the following provisions of state law. These are all California penal codes. D, multiple acts indictable under Title 18, U.S. Code 1512, relating to tampering with a witness, victim, or informant. Section 1589, related to forced labor. Sections 1591, 1591 and 2, sex trafficking. And then sections 2421, 2422, and 2 related to transportation and inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal sexual activities. Multiple offenses involving the possession with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics and controlled substances, including cocaine, oxycodone, alprazolam, 3-methylene dioxymethamphetamine, 3,4-methyl. That's methamphetamine, right? Okay. 4-bromo-2,5-methamphetamine, gamma hydroxybutyrate acid. So GHC, I think is what that is, and ketamine in violation of Title 21, U.S. States Code sections, all these, right? Okay. Wow. Okay. So he's got a lot of racketeering. Notice of special sentencing factor from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to, in and affecting interstate foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18 U.S.C. Section 1591E2, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in commercial sex act in violation of that code. Man. Okay, count 2 is sex trafficking. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Combs, the defendant, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, blah, 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 that they were just talking about up there, right? Okay, got that. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution, which we just learned about above, from at least 2009 to 2024 in New York and elsewhere. Combs, the defendant, knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with intent to that the individual engaged in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same. To wit, Combs transported, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. Forfeiture allegations. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 in the indictment, Combs, the defendant, shall forfeit to the U.S. pursuant to Title 18, Section 1963, any and all interests the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18, Section 1962, and any and all interests in securities of, claims against, or property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise named and described herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code 1962, and any and all property constituting and derived from proceeds obtained directly and indirectly. Said offense, including but not limited to a sum of money in United States currency representing the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. Okay, same thing with count 2, same thing. Guys, he is going to forfeit to the U.S. government hundreds of millions of dollars with this order. Wow. Wow. Substitute assets provision. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third person, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty, it is the intent of the United States, pursuant to these things, to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the forfeitable property. Wow. Okay. We've got some good comments here. Let's go over to your comments here. Caroline, which is a beautiful name. We named one of our daughters Caroline. It's alleged by a victim that Child Protective Services provided children for him. I hope this is really looked into. Wow. Michelle, you caught alive. Glad you're here. Chicka Bless says, Gavin, if the Jeffrey case started receiving claims of SA since the 90s and nobody did anything till recently, how many years has Diddy gotten away with it? Well, at least since 2009, they're saying. And the other victims that filed civilly said as early as the 90s. So we're talking 35 years potentially, close to 35 years, 3 decades at least. Great comment. Govinda says, any chance you can do a quick layman's terms recap after such a big section, e.g. racketeering? Liesel says, hey, lawyer here. What makes it RICO is the enterprise nature of it all. So Govinda, I am a lay person. I am not a lawyer like Liesel is. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Liesel. But yeah, what makes something racketeering is the organized crime section of it. Like Liesel said, the enterprise, they've created like a business around illegal activity, criminal behavior. That's what makes it racketeering. That's what makes it RICO. RICO stands for, I can never remember. RICO stands for racketeering, influenced, and corrupt organizations. So it's an anti-organized crime act. Okay, great question. Guys, in the description below, I wish I could bring it up on my screen here, but in the description below, I have linked where you can download the indictment. You can download all of the the lawsuits from Cassandra Ventura, Joy Dickerson-Neal, Lisa Gardner, Rodney Jones, and so forth. So they're all in the description below if you guys want to get into all of those lawsuits. You can do that. And I put them down there. I just thought it was the easiest thing to do, considering that I had so little time to do this because of my day job and because they are available online. Most of this stuff is federal, so all you need is a Pacer account to get it. So please, if you're into reading that sort of stuff, click down below and have a look, because the allegations are very serious. Now, what happens with Mr. Combs now? It appears that he's not going to be getting out of prison. I understand that he does have a trial scheduled for May of 2025. It is unlikely, in my experience, that will happen at that time. First off, almost everything is pleaded out, right? Secondly, they, the defense will want to prepare a defense, so they likely will waive Mr. Combs' right to a speedy trial. There's probably going to be motion after motion after motion on this thing. We should not expect to see a trial begin in May of 2025. I would be surprised if a trial began in May of 2026. Of course, again, I have no bona fides on this. I think that this is just my experience, right? Randall from Florida, Gavin, you do an excellent job. Thank you very much. Kathy says, think of having all this money and power and all the good you could be doing with your position, and instead of making the world a better place, you ruin lives and cause irreparable harm to so many. Yeah. Wow. That's a great comment, right? It's that whole idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And you see this in organizations, big and small, and all the way down to like small families to giant corporations and multi-corporate enterprises to entire nations, right? When there is a person or a group of people that supposed to have, and often do have, tons and tons of power, it does seem to feed on itself and it becomes very difficult. In fact, I think it's probably hard to be a good person when you're surrounded by, or when you hold so much power. It's probably so difficult, but people do it, right? People do it. Not Mr. Combs, apparently, but yeah. I wonder if his ex-partner Kim Porter's sudden death will be looked into. Yeah, I'm sure. Pimp Down says, Gavin, do you think Diddy's lawsuit against Diageo brought this hell upon him? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it does seem to me that it was Cassie Ventura's lawsuit that opened the floodgates, opened Pandora's box against Mr. Combs. So I don't know. That's a good question. Chicka Bless says, Gavin, let's hope he makes it to court. I'm just saying, I don't have to say what might happen to him. Yeah. Well, let's see. No, I was about, no, I'm not going to say that, but, yeah, could something happen to Mr. Combs like happened with Mr. Epstein? I hope not. Hey, real quick before we go, we've been at this 45 minutes. I want to share with you guys this strange experience from court today. This is a case that you guys won't know about because it happened in a small township in a small corner of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania isn't a place that has good access to public records like Florida, like even New York, places like Idaho, Florida, Mississippi, places like that have good access to public records. Pennsylvania is just terrible at it. But in court today, we watched a dash cam video of police arriving and engaging with a man who is accused of shooting another man 5 times in the face with his own gun. And then they put him into the cruiser and they turned the cruiser camera around while he was seated in there. And this man, who the defense claims is mentally ill, and I believe he probably was, or it probably is, sat there and talked with people that weren't there, had this entire conversation, and it looked like something straight out of Batman. It looked like he was Joker, like he was just having these weird conversations, and then he would burst into fits of giggling like it was like a comic book villain. And because it happened at night, and you know, those cameras, in order to pick up enough light, they desaturate, right? So it was all in black and white. It looked like a Frank Miller, like Sin City kind of thing. The light flashing on his face from the outside, the giggles, the cackles, and then the weird thing talking to his dad and his brother who weren't there. It was the craziest thing. I am hopeful that after this case is adjudicated, that I can get my hands on all of that evidence, because I just think that would be a terrific story to tell as like a short YouTube documentary. It's just absolutely fascinating. It's tragic. And it's sad. You guys can read my reporting on that at exploreclarion.com. That's published in exploreclarion.com, which is an online publication covering Clarion County, Pennsylvania. So if you want to check my reporting out, that probably will be published tomorrow morning. Again, tomorrow I will be in court all day, and then I'll come back here around 7:30 or 8. I'll schedule it for 7:30, but it may be pushed to 8. We're going to get back over to the Madeline Soto case. We're going to be talking about Mr. Stern's appearance in court and the things that are scheduled as far as his pretrial and trial, and what we might expect moving ahead toward a trial for Mr. Stearns. And we'll get into those details tomorrow. How many... We've got a couple of comments before we go. Let's just, Girl Friday, how many states do you think will go after him in addition to New York? I think definitely California, right? They're investigating him for the Tupac killing. I'm not ignoring that satanic lean on his behavior. We're only at the tip of the iceberg. Have they said whether or not he has any ties to Epstein? Not that I know of, but guys, moneyed people are a small community, small and exclusive community. I'm sure that they interacted from time to time. Melinda says, Gavin, I've been a fan of YouTube for years. I find myself coming to your channel for logic and truth and real commentary. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. New subscriber, but will be loyal. Great comment, Melinda. I don't demand your loyalty, but I deeply appreciate it. Thank you for that. GF, was this guy from Emlenton? He was in Limestone Township. I don't think he was from Emlenton. And then New England Coast, if they really want to stick it to him, they will begin an IRS case. They often do. Yeah, maybe but he's forfeited almost everything he owns at this point, I think. So yeah, Mr. Combs, he is going to have a hard time. Hey, for those of you that are new with me, I just want to bring to your attention my website, gavinfish.com. This is a true crime aficionado's fix, but it's not of illicit drugs. It is of true crime content. If you go to cases, you will find case files that are as long as my leg. Madeline Soto, for example, which is a case that we'll get back to tomorrow. We have got so many things, audio files, investigation files, crime scene photos, and so forth. So go on over to my website, sign up for Crime Cod, which is my newsletter, which I haven't written for a couple of weeks now because of all the stuff that's been going on. But I'll be getting back to my next blog post, which will be on the case of Kirby Carpenter. And then if you ever need to contact me, just go ahead and click contact and fill out this form. You can be anonymous or not. With that, guys, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I hope to see you back here tomorrow when we pick back up on the Madeline Soto case. Have a good night. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.